Hello friends, welcome back to another week of dinners video, or if you are new here, welcome. Today's video, I am starting off with something that most definitely can be dinner, but when I first saw this recipe, it kind of blew my mind a little because I have never ever heard or thought of this. And I am really interested to hear if any of you have heard of this either. I'm sure someone has. It probably is just new to me, but this is breakfast chili. I came across this recipe and it was like an aha moment. Like, I have never heard of breakfast chili. And so I asked my husband, and he had not either. I am very interested if any of you have, but basically instead of using like ground beef or ground turkey, you're using bacon and ground turkey sausage. I'm sure you could also use ground sausage, but the recipe that I saw and was somewhat following used ground turkey sausage, and that's actually what I had on hand. So I went ahead and used that with, it said about half a pound of bacon, but who's measuring bacon around here? We definitely aren't in my kitchen. So I had a small, I think it was a little less than a pound of bacon. I went ahead and just did the entire thing. This recipe also does not include any beans, so I'm sure you could add them if that sounds like something that you're wanting. Again, I was following a recipe and this is something I've never heard of before, so I wanted to kind of stick pretty close to the recipe to see if this is something that I want to make more often. This ended up being a huge hit, and this will be a meal that I add into our rotation a little more regularly. Again, I made this for breakfast, and it is breakfast chili after all, but it could definitely be done as a dinner too. You can do any kind of toppings that you usually like on chili. I thought kind of something that would be interesting was doing hash browns, since it is breakfast and my family loves hash browns. So I made hash browns on the side, and then when the chili was done, I topped it with the hash browns and then with some over medium eggs, and that's how my family ate it. I think a couple of my kids, I think my oldest put like some hot sauce or some salsa on it. You could, there's all kinds of things. Really, anything you like on chili, you could definitely add on this. I loved how versatile this dish was, but again, it was like an aha moment. I was so excited to find this, and I can't believe that I had not ever thought of this. It never crossed my mind. If this is something that you have heard of or that you make, I would love to hear. Also, is your recipe any different? I would love to hear variations to also give those a try. Like usual in any of my cooking videos, if you would like a recipe that you see, you can find them in the description box below. If you, for whatever reason, can't find it, just let me know and I will make it available for you. And if you missed my more recent video, I believe I posted it on Monday, kind of a prepping meals video, and you didn't catch the Amish honey bars that I made, I went ahead and I put them in the end of this video too, because they were such a huge hit. This was another one of those, what is that? And it ended up being a really great recipe. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that again in case anyone missed it, because it is seriously such a wonderful recipe. And I'm not sure if you can hear it in my voice, but I am currently getting over a cold. It kind of started with my younger two last week, and then I got it, and now my husband and my older two have it. It has been kind of a crazy week of just this cold making its way around our house. So if I sound any different, that's probably why. I still have a little bit of a tickle in my throat that I'm trying to get over. And I'm also doing a lot of solo parenting this week because my husband he was much sicker than I was. So he unfortunately had to miss work, and he was pretty much in bed most of the week. It really hit him hard. So, and now my older two, they're going through it. So it has been kind of a tough week in the house this week. but the weather is looking up, and I honestly wondered if it had something to do with the weather changing so drastically because it was super cold I think it was last week, and then this week it is super warm. We're almost in the 90s, so the weather changes. I wondered if they had anything to do with it, but either way, it is moving through our house and hopefully it will be done soon. Here's how the chili turned out. I would honestly cook it a little longer. The recipe only had it for like over an hour, and I was so excited to try it. So I didn't really cook it too long. Usually I like to let chili simmer for quite a while, but I did not in this case because I was just excited and I wanted to have it pretty like immediately to try it. But yeah, so I would cook it a little longer so it can really thicken up, but it was a really wonderful recipe if you're wanting to try it for yourself. We are now moving on to Mediterranean meatballs. I kind of kept it somewhat easy this week because I did a lot of bowls recipes. If you are a usual person that watches my meals videos, you know I love to do bowls, really any kind. I do burger bowls and taco bowls and now Mediterranean meatball bowls. So I feel like it's just so easy to put together. And so I tend to do that. And also, if you're making like similar ingredients, you can just make like a larger batch to begin with. Like, for instance, rice. I made rice a couple of times this week, and my first batch of rice, I just made a larger one. And then we were able to kind of add those leftovers to the next meal if we didn't have enough. I would make a little bit, like kind of supplementing. But that's the great thing about bowls is you can kind of do that. So I just bought a bulk amount of basically the same ingredients and then just changed up the meat in several of these recipes. So these are Mediterranean turkey meatballs. I don't know if I said that, but I am now. And I am just adding a variety of seasonings. I did salt, pepper, garlic, cumin, and then I didn't have any fresh dill or dried dill. So it's kind of weird, but I added pickle juice and that worked. It is odd, but it worked. And then you'll add an egg. I doubled this recipe, so I added a little bit more of all the ingredients and I added panko. You could also just use normal breadcrumbs if you'd like. And I formed them into meatballs and then put them in a hot skillet with some olive oil. I'm going to sear them on a couple of sides and then I will put them in the oven to finish cooking the rest of the way. And I did say that I did some solo parenting this week, so the meatballs got a little more done than I was originally wanting, which didn't really bother me or no one else said anything actually either, but I don't mind them getting a little overdone on the outsides. And some of these, that's how it was, just kind of happened that way when you got a lot going on and you don't have someone else helping you, unfortunately. But it is what it is. They still turned out so wonderful. And I know I have made this particular recipe on my channel quite a bit. It is something that my family loves. I love it. It's one of my favorites, but my family, they have now come to really enjoy this, especially when we're having rice. And I have no idea what it's called. If you know, please let me know in the comments below because I never know what it's called. But I just chop up cucumbers, and also it kind of varies. Sometimes I have the small ones, sometimes I have like those large, I think they're called English cucumbers, and then sometimes I just have these normal ones. But I make this all the time. I just chop up the cucumbers pretty roughly, and then tomatoes, I had a mixture of cherry and then on the vine. So I'm adding them in, kind of varying the sizes of those as well. And then I'll add in some thin sliced red onion and some balsamic, some garlic, salt, pepper, and some vinegar. So red wine vinegar, I think, is usually what I use. But yeah, it is such an awesome dish. And then, you just kind of toss it together and let it marinate a little before you serve your dish. And it is really, really great. And my kids, I didn't think they used to like this. It was kind of only me. I would make it for like lunches and stuff. But now my kids have come to love this, and they love putting it on their rice when I make it. I also chopped up some cilantro, sliced avocados, and I made just a quick tzatziki sauce to go over top of the meatballs. And this is how the meal turned out. It was so fabulous. It was really, really good. Probably my favorite for the week, but it was very simple and it was wonderful, especially for summer coming. It just is one of those meals that reminds me of a nice summer night. This next meal is one that I have not made the chicken before, so it was a little new to me. I am making hot honey chicken, and I decided just to do like sweet potato fries, and I also did normal potato fries because not all my kids, Theo, my 5-year-old in particular, he is not the biggest fan of sweet potatoes, and he is very vocal about it. He came in and he tried the sweet potato fries and he was like, yuck. It's like, it's not that bad. They were really, really good. So I don't know. Usually I bake them, but this time I was trying to kind of go a little quicker, and I cooked all the potatoes in oil just to get it going quicker. My husband, this was the day that he was the sickest, so things were a little bit more chaotic than they usually are, and I didn't really have as much time as I was thinking for dinner. So, and I knew that the kids would enjoy some homemade French fries, so that is what we are doing this evening. And the chicken, it is a very, very simple recipe, and I'm really glad for that. I didn't realize how simple it was until I was actually making it. And it was the perfect recipe for this evening, which everything, like I said, was so chaotic. But it ended up being really, really good. And I had come across it and it had great reviews, like raving reviews. So I wanted to give it a try, and my kids devoured the chicken in this recipe. Of course, the fries too, but they're kids and French fries, so that's kind of a given. But the chicken itself, it makes a amazing sauce, and they just devoured it. It was kind of funny because my husband, he decided to join us at the table this evening for dinner, and he ended up kind of leaving part of the way through. He barely touched any of the food. Like I said, he was sick, and he ended up going into the bathroom. And while he was in the bathroom, my daughter, she sat there and ate all of the chicken on his plate, which ended up working out because he was not hungry and did not end up wanting any of it. But yeah, it was just kind of funny because she was like, oh, I'm just gonna try a little bite, and then ended up eating his entire portion. So this chicken, it was very good, and my kids ate more than just their portion of it. Now, all I did was I cut boneless, skinless chicken breasts into bite-sized pieces, and then I have olive oil in that pan, and I just put all the pieces into that pan, and I stir it around, and I'm going to cook it completely before I remove it and start to make the sauce. I'm just putting the sweet potato fries in first. I thought that they would take longer to cook, so like I said, I usually do it in the oven, so I wasn't really positive, but that's where I started. I started with those. And when I make French fries, I'm kind of backtracking a little here, sorry, but when I make French fries, I cut them, and then I always put them immediately into freezing cold water, and then I will leave them in there for 10, 15 minutes and then take them out, and then I let them all dry completely on towels on my counter before I put them into the oil. I feel like that really helps to make them not soggy and really crispy. So if you are kind of new to making French fries, that is a way that always works really well for me. And I did that for both kinds of potatoes here, both the sweet potato and the russet potato. All the chicken pieces are done, so I'm going to be removing them from the skillet and putting them in this dish that I did wash. If you got that I used that with the raw chicken, trust me, I washed it. I am so paranoid about raw meat and stuff, so it was definitely washed. But I am going to remove it all, and then I'm going to deglaze the pan with just a little tiny bit of water. It was a couple tablespoons, and you can use chicken broth if you'd like, or vegetable broth, or you can just use water. And that's what I did. The recipe does not call for that, but I did it anyway, and it did not seem to make any difference. And then I will put in all the ingredients to make a sauce, and it's a little spicy, and because it has cayenne in it. So if you don't want it as spicy, just do less cayenne. I added in slightly more than it said, but barely any. And then it also has a sweet aspect with the honey. I will have all the ingredients down below in the description box if you are wanting to make this and you're unable to follow along. Also, it's a little difficult for me to list all the ingredients and the quantities and all that while I'm making the video, so it is just easier for me to put it in the description box, but that is where you can find it if you're wanting to make it yourself.
I never really know what's going on. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out,
Now I'm stirring it and I have it on a lower simmer to get it to thicken up, but I would suggest like here it is starting to thicken up and then I went ahead and just put the chicken in and I should have waited a little longer. It still turned out really, really great and I mean it coated the chicken and everything nicely, but when I make this again, I will be a little more patient with the sauce and have it thicken up just slightly more. I'm serving this with a giant salad, and I like to do, especially in the summertime when I make fresh pico de gallo, I like topping the salad with it because you don't need nearly as much dressing, and then it makes a really nice salad. So I have that, and I made some sriracha ketchup and just a couple like a fry sauce for the kids too, and that was dinner. For this next meal, I'm sure I've made it on my channel before, but these are my go-to taco bowls. They're so easy, they're so versatile, and even if I've made them on my channel before, they can be made in so many different ways. I went ahead and I already made some ground beef. I did 2 pounds of ground beef with taco seasoning, and now I am making a pot of rice to go with them. I have some extra vegetables for from our fajitas that we did. So I am chopping some pepper up and some red onion, and I'll go ahead and I'll saute them before I add them into the meat. I wanted to be a little more extra with these this week. I don't know how else to say that. But I don't know. I wanted more vegetables in my taco bowls this week. And usually I kind of keep them a little more simple than this, but we had some extras on hand and it just sounded really, really good. So I'm chopping up the peppers and the onions. I'll saute them and then I'm also going to add in a can of corn and a can of black beans. When I'm making these bowls, it's almost like a taco salad. I add in a significant amount of lettuce to each bowl too. So it's not so much rice, it's not so heavy. They're a lot lighter because I only add a small portion of rice and then a lot of it will be vegetables. And so I'm doing an entire head of lettuce. I think it was almost an entire head of lettuce either way, but I am chopping those up into small pieces. And then I also have the pico de gallo that I made out to put on them too. I'm going to chop up some cilantro, some avocado, and I also have cheese to top with. And I think I even get out like some salsa and hot sauce. My kids, they like it spicy. All of my boys love spicy foods. My daughter, she's not so much a fan, but my boys are. And my younger boys, I think I talked in my last video how they're around the camera so much that they like don't even notice that it's there anymore. And, like, and so I don't know which boy that was, but it's like he didn't even notice the camera was going or that I was doing anything on camera. He just handed me his water bottle because he was trying to refill it right in front of the camera. Like, there's a million places he could handed it to me, but I don't know. I just thought it was so funny that they don't notice anymore. They don't notice that the camera's there. And my two youngest, they love being in front of the camera too. So like you'll see them and they'll sometimes wave in the background and stuff because my friends on YouTube are their friends on YouTube too, and they love being the stars of my channel. Radish has been another huge hit in our family this year. I've always loved radish and so has my husband, but my kids in particular, my 5-year-old, have recently just found that they absolutely love radish. So anytime we have them, which is basically all the time now, but anytime we're having like taco bowls or anything, they fit really well in with something like this. So they're always asking for me to add this. This is one of their favorite things in the taco bowl are the radishes. Now that the peppers and onions are all sauteed and done, I'm going to put them into the taco meat and then I'm going to add in the corn and the black beans. I'll stir it all together and then I'm going to warm it all through again before I plate them all. Here's how they all turned out. They were delicious. And again, another meal that I cannot wait to have all summer long. I know that it is not even spring yet, but this is definitely a summertime meal and it feels like summer already. I'm so excited for it. I am now making the Amish honey bars, and I know that I have previously made these in a more recent video. However, I know I have a lot of friends that like to come and watch my Friday videos, and I this is such a good recipe. I didn't want anyone to miss it. So I went ahead and I added it into the end of this video. So if you have seen it, you don't have to watch anymore, or if you need a refresher, please feel free to continue. But this is what these are. These are the Amish honey bars. This was the first time that I had made it. However, I already have it on my list to continue to make for this coming month. I think I'm actually I have to go and do my large grocery haul this weekend. If you are not familiar, I buy smaller grocery hauls throughout the month, and then I have one large grocery haul that I do every month, and I buy meat in bulk and grains and stuff like that. So I have that grocery haul, and I actually think I'm going to expand it this week and do an even larger one and try to really spread out my smaller grocery hauls. So I'm going to try doing that. But one of the things that I wanted to make a couple of times this coming month that I'm trying to plan ahead for are these Amish honey bars. I originally thought they were more like a honey bun when I first saw this recipe, but I think they're more of a dessert. My kids will sometimes come and ask if they can have it for breakfast. And if I'm not making breakfast, sure, you can have cake for breakfast. It is more of I want to say like a thicker brownie consistency. They are not fluffy. And when I was actually making this dough, I did actually get a little concerned. And I went back to the recipe and was looking because it is such a thick dough. I was expecting more of a fluffier, more cake or cookie-like dough, but it is very, very thick. So if you're making that, that is totally normal. It's kind of dry, it's very thick. And instead of just pouring it into the pan, I end up pressing it into the pan, but they came out perfect. So I know I second guessed it, but they came out really, really good. So highly suggest making this recipe. It was a really great one to have on hand. And they are easy enough after they set in the pan and after you put the glaze on top. They are easy enough to almost carry around like a granola bar. So you could definitely cut these up ahead of time. And then if you're going to the park or an event or anything like that, they are a really great thing just to put in a Tupperware or a bag and be able to have as a snack. They were really easy to kind of like a grab and go, which a lot of the things that I do, we're so busy with all of our homeschool stuff right now. So my go-to snacks and stuff like that are always the grab and go stuff. And this one definitely hits that point. So if that's something you're looking for, I highly suggest this. And when I had this in my other video, I posted how I have never made like a cake with mayonnaise in it. And the cake itself does not have mayonnaise in it. However, the icing did, and I thought that was super weird at first, even though I know that like in more vintage recipes that's pretty normal. And however, I don't know, I've never done it, so it made me a little nervous when I was making the frosting. I'm like, oh, I hope it doesn't taste too much like mayo. But it was funny. Someone commented saying that, mayo is basically egg and oil, and so it's just easier to add a little bit of mayo instead of the egg and oil. And when I tell you, it was another aha moment. I'm like, yep, you are so right. That is exactly what it is. So it was no longer weird to me after that. But thank you if you're watching this again. Um, that was an aha moment for me. Well, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching another week of dinners video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.